This week on The Loud Quiet, launching a new venture in the empty nest.
Hello and welcome back to The Loud Quiet. We're glad to be back in the studio. For those of you who watched last week, we did a little outside recording, and today the sun is out, but it's a little too cold to be outside. We do want to tell y'all about a new group that we have started on Facebook. We would love for y'all to join. We're really trying to make this a community where we can interact with each other. Head over to The Loud Quiet Empty Nest Living. We really would like for y'all to join and start interacting with those that have already joined the group.
What are empty nesters so starved with? Community, friendship building, and all the things that will grow out of this. This week we wanted to talk about something that was kind of big in our life that happened last week. Y'all have heard us talk about Clancy and me going into business together. And, well, it happened. The first edition of CX Passport Live took place this week. And just briefly, for those that don't know, it's the events will bring CX Passport Live, and we record a podcast right there on the spot.
It was in Austin, and if you're watching, this is a picture of Rick doing the interview. We were set up in the back of the room where the event was taking place. It was a big deal, and it was something that we had been prepared for before, but when you're doing it, it is interesting doing it versus thinking about it so much.
Bags are packed. We're putting tripods in bags. We're putting lights in bags. We're trying to figure out how on earth are we going to pack this in such a way that we're allowed to go on a plane. It gets real when it's, oh, crud, that doesn't fit in the carry-on. What do we do now?
And I was downstairs just packing clothes because I don't handle the packing of the equipment yet. I'm not to that level. I help set it up, but
we'll make you a black belt packer.
But I was downstairs packing, and you were up here for probably 3 hours, and I know it will get more streamlined.
Right.
You wanted to make sure and double check and triple check that you had everything and everything was working. And
you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when you were preparing for your very first spin class.
Yeah.
However many years ago that was.
A long time.
I remember watching you agonize over each selection of music and each note that you took of this is what I'm going to be doing during this music and each step along the way. How does that compare to perhaps the last spin class you taught?
At that point, we were just using streaming music.
Right, so just hit play and off it goes.
So you got everything packed. This was the day before, and we needed to be down there at a certain time to meet the event people. We had our flight booked. And then we started watching. The flight kept getting delayed. At some point, we both said, you know what, we can just drive. We were already planning on driving back. Right. We had to pivot. I was really proud of us, though, because we pivoted quickly, calmly. It wasn't a big deal.
It wasn't a big deal, except that it was. Like the last thing going into this very first time of doing something that I wanted to do was change anything. Mm-hmm. And as you said, boom, we did it. We got in the car. It was a relatively easy drive.
I've never gotten in our car from our house and seen under 3 hours to get to Austin.
It was something. To prove how good of a drive it was, we stopped at Buc-ee's, which is a state law that you have to stop at Buc-ee's when you're on any sort of road trip. And we went in there. First of all, you could pick whatever gas pump you wanted because it was completely empty. Then the inside of Buc-ee's was the emptiest I have ever seen it. I have to imagine that's what it looks like at 2:30 in the morning. I didn't even know that there are these huge spaces in Buc-ee's that you don't notice because it's usually crowded with people.
It is usually so packed, yes. And you usually run into someone that you know, which is funny
That's
too.
That's a weird part, yes.
The picture that I have up now is of us in our CX Passport Live shirts, and this was after the event. We're smiling. Let's talk about what were your feelings going into the event? What were you excited about? What were you nervous about?
So first of all, just excited, like the excitement of, oh my gosh, it's finally here. It's finally here. That part was absolutely there. I was also excited that in this case, this was a smaller scale. I was excited to be able to work with you. I was excited to see what this looked like. And you know what? Look at that picture that we've got up there. I was just excited to be wearing the uniform. I looked at you while we were recording, and I realized not only are we wearing the same shirt, we're wearing the same color jeans. Without planning it, we wore the same color shoes, too. There's something that I've learned there is I think the uniform brings something to it. I was excited about how prepared we were. I felt confident in that regard. But I got to tell you, not that I lost a lot of sleep the night before, but I was running so many scenarios in my head. I was running through what if the light burned out? I was running, okay, now how do we get the audio set up? We were testing this with new microphones. How do we handle it if there's too much noise in the background? And this one's it's a little uncomfortable to say, but there's a part of me that I don't know if I want to use the word worried or curious or just uncertain. I haven't seen you in a business setting. And not that I have any fear about the way you talk to people. That's not what I mean. But working with you in a business setting, this was a new environment for you. And I didn't know what that would be like. And not just about, ooh, what is Clancy going to do? I didn't know how I would be reacting to you in a business environment. There was uncertainty about what that would look like, along with how are we going to get everything set up? I was anxious about, are we going to be able to get things physically set up in a way that we work together? So that's me. What about you? What did you feel?
For those of you who know and have been listening, I am not a business person. I've never been in any of my fields of work. Nothing has been truly business related. I joked that if I get a LinkedIn, and if you know the Friends reference, I'm going to say, I'm Clancy Denton, a businesswoman here on business. That's Regina Phalange's line for those of you who watch Friends.
Hello, my name is Regina Phalange. I'm a businesswoman in town on business.
I do feel like an imposter in some of these things where some of these people probably think that I am in this business type world and I'm not. I was so excited for you. You are the face of CX Passport Live. I am the producer, setup person. Get people mic'd up. I feel like I'm working on a set of some, TV movie. I was so excited for you that this was finally happening. And now that I've been involved with it for 5 months, I was excited for us that, yes, we were getting to actually do an event finally. And I was glad also that, yes, it was on a smaller scale. It was in a city that we are very familiar with.
Yeah.
That makes a difference. We knew exactly where we were going. The venue that, is one that we've been to many times. So that made everything a little more put at ease. I was anxious, and it piggybacks on what you said. I didn't know, one, if I was going to be able to do all of this, because our studio here, the equipment's already set.
Right.
I have helped when we do location things, but not to the professional extent that this was expected to be. We're not professionals yet. So I was also anxious about, I don't want Rick to be upset with me. I don't want him to be, why can't she do this faster? What's going on? I wanted to take as much stress off of you that I could. Rick does not get upset. That's not his nature. But he goes quiet. I didn't want him to go quiet on me. And so, yes, I was nervous about that. I was also nervous about, I'm going to be sitting through this event because they were like, oh, please stay and sit through the event. I was like, again, not a business person, but I will say, and shout out to Spark CX, they were putting on an event for CCNG, which is a customer care networking group. It was so interesting. And I told them afterwards, I said, this is not my wheelhouse, but I was interested because I'm a customer.
Yeah.
I could interact with everyone. It was a really good experience.
Yeah, to amplify on the things that we're talking about, it's interesting that we had the same concern going in, just different lenses on it. Even going to that happy hour, I didn't know if you would even enjoy that or if I would be bringing you through 6 stages of torture. And I think looking back, I think all 4 of us, the 2 guys from Spark CX that were there, you and me, I think we had a great time.
Sure. And it was definitely more social. Once people find out that we have another podcast about being empty nesters, that's what they want to talk about.
I don't care about the other.
Really. And y'all did do some business talk, but, both of those guys are close to being empty nesters. It was just a social time then.
Yeah, so those are the thoughts that we had going into it. And there's probably about 17 others I'm just not saying right now, because there was some sleep that got lost. Now that it's happened, now that we've worked together, what do you say worked well? And what would you say, I think we could do better at that?
I think we did a really good job of dividing and conquering. Like you even said, hey, thank you you were just going ahead and getting the lights set and getting, the things that I know how to do, I feel good about. We got some new mics and we could not figure out why your guest wasn't coming through. Well, it was because it had disconnected, just things that we need to double check before. We also noticed there's some things that we need to add into our equipment to get rid of the big white wall behind if you're in that kind of a space. All in all, I think I was very pleased with how everything came together.
I will say that technologically, everything worked really well. It puts me at such ease next time knowing that, okay, we got the bag packed. It's almost a go bag at this point, right? If somebody wants to do this, boom, grab, go. Some of the things like the design, if you look at this picture, it's kind of boring from a picture and design perspective. What worked so well is what you just said. And it was what I didn't expect to work as well as it did. And that was just simply how you felt.
I didn't either. So just letting you know that, because again, like I said, I am not familiar with this equipment.
You just jumped into that role. And what you said is exactly what I felt. There was a moment that I was preparing. And this was actually one of the anxious items. I'd forgotten to print my notes on note cards. So I was having to figure out, okay, how can I memorize my notes and make sure that I have an intelligent conversation with the guest? And I was working through that, getting mentally prepped for this interview with the guest. And I look up, and you've done so much of the technical setup. Yes, you're spinning the lights on their tripods. You're laying out the cords. You're getting the headphones. All the technology that needed to be there, you had that nailed. And that took such a relief off my plate. I don't know that anybody in that room knew this was our first on-site expression of CX Passport Live. The confidence that comes from me having the confidence in what you're doing that I see either out of the corner of my eye or the things that we're talking about, that just comes off almost as a pheromone to those in the room that see, okay, they've got this. They know what they're doing.
It was a very good first experience and good trial run. And even if we didn't change anything, I think any company brand would be happy with what's going to come out of it.
Oh, yeah, the results are going to be spectacular.
So we left there and we had decided we're just going to go ahead and head on back. There was no reason to stay in Austin. The weather there wasn't great either. I just wanted to be home by my fireplace because it was so cold. But I really think that we did not say one word to each other the entire time on 35, except, do you need to stop at Becky's? Yes. And that was about the extent of it.
That was the first time
Yes.
I think we talked. It was good. It taught us something that matters to the empty nest. There's some things that we really learned about this post-parent phase of life that are meaningful. And one of them is, you actually can successfully work with your spouse in the post-parent phase of life, the empty nest phase of life.
Yeah. If you are even toying with the idea, and I do know some couples who have decided to go into business together along the way, even into empty nest. Yeah, it can be done. At least now, from our 6-month experience so far. It's been really good. So we'll see
I
if it
was listening to a
continues.
podcast today that talked about, there's kind of a 2 to 7 year evolution of people. They change in those 2 to 7 years. Why do divorces happen on a 7 year, 7 year itch, that kind of stuff. So check back in with us in 7 years, but at least for now. And I think that's what I would say is because so much of what is out there right now is, oh, don't work with your spouse. Oh, don't do that together because you will spend too much time together. That's the lesson that I have here is it is possible.
And I think there are some couples that know it would not work for. And I told you,
Well,
I was
yeah.
listening to a podcast earlier this week that it was so funny because they exactly said, do not go into business with your partner, your spouse, whatever. And I was like, oh, well, too late. It is a chance for you to stay connected. Another reason in the empty nest for you to stay connected as a couple. And you have the time now because you don't have to be doing things with the children, which also brings back into another episode that we talked about earlier, that you can be creative post parent. I felt like a lot of my creativity when the kids were younger and even into their high school, college years was helping them get stuff for projects. It's allowed the time and rediscovering that creativity like we talked about.
I'll put that episode in the show notes. You can create something at this stage of life that is meaningful. You can create a new business, a new piece of art, a new piece of music, a new entity, a new something in this stage of life. So much of what is sort of out there in the conventional wisdom is things are only created by the young. So I think that's what I've learned and what we've learned as we come through this stage of creating a business together. And that's what we would love for y'all to share on the Facebook group. What have you created with your spouse? Do you have any lessons of working together? What is it that you have done in conjunction with your spouse that we can learn from, that others inside of the community can learn from? So head over there to the Loud, Quiet, Empty Nest Living, the Facebook group. And if you're not a member, join that community and start participating in the discussion.
We want to hear from y'all. So thanks again for joining us on another episode of The Loud Quiet.